Hey friends, welcome back to Rita Talks Amrita, and on this YouTube channel I just share some of the thoughts, ideas that I've been thinking about, some of the things that have been going on in my mind. And in today's video, I don't know, I want to talk about this feeling that I have from having had a relatively productive day. So I'm super actually grateful for today because I made lots of progress on some of the areas that are important to me. So first of all, for the current project that I'm working on for my team, like basically first thing in the morning, I started like closing off some threads with regards to that. And the second thing that I'm super excited about is this initiative, this hiring initiative as part of the Women in Engineering group that I'm a part of. And the reason that I'm excited about this is I think there is a lot of potential to build a good system, a good mechanism for hiring more women. And I just got really excited about trying to figure out trying to solve for the problem that basically we're trying to overcome, which is basically like to talk about this whole diversity thing. I want to go back to this book called Think Twice by Michael Mauboussin, and I think he was. I mean, I don't want to miss. I don't remember. I think he's some sort of hedge fund manager or something like that. But he's a very big deal, I think, in New York. Let me just double check. Michael Mauboussin. Oh, he works at Morgan Stanley, and his books are freaking amazing. I read his book called Think Twice, and that book really impacted the way that I think, because like the reason that I like it is because it's a very fun book for me to read because it's very mathematical, and I mean not in the way that like just in his thinking you can tell that this guy is following a very distinct methodology that I've only noticed in people who are very good at maths and who write books. Basically, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, who's a mathematician, and Cal Newport, who actually does computer science research / mathematical research, and you can actually tell from the way they reason and the way they explain things that they have this background. And that's what I love so much about these books. And basically at some point he talked about in his book this idea of the importance of diversity, and basically like the mathematical root cause of the need for diversity is to cover as much variance as possible of so if you think about it in terms of samples, right? Like basically the world follows some sort of statistical distribution, and for us to have an accurate representation of the world, we do sampling, right? But when you do sampling, you have to be sure that this sampling actually covers the population evenly, because if your sampling is skewed, then the data that you get from your sampling will be skewed. Okay, let's say so if we talk about it from a statistical perspective, let's say I don't know. I don't know how to freaking explain this. Just like, yeah, that's how I see it. It's sampling, and basically when it relates to diversity, like when trying to basically make decisions, you actually need, like, actually depending on the kind of problem, because there are problems that are better, like, for which the wisdom of crowd applies, and there are problems for which it does not. But in any case, the data that you want to have access to uh, needs to be sampled in a way that's statistically sound. Okay? So when it comes to making decisions, let's say at a company or basically anywhere, uh, let's say a huge company wants to improve their decision making, they need to understand all sorts of perspectives, because if the people at the top all look the same and they're all male and white, they will only ever see things from the perspective of a male and a white person, uh, because basically the sampling has been over indexed on that population. Whereas if you basically, like, you have a more diverse set of people from a more diverse backgrounds who are obviously equally as competent, you are more likely to get data that's more representative of the world, and so the sampling quality will increase because you are capturing all of the variance of this random variable. I mean, I would need like some sort of pen and paper to explain this, but that's how I see it. And basically, he was talking about this, like how capturing the whole variance of a random variable, how relevant that is, and this can only happen through diversity of perspectives. And basically the easiest way, or like the most straightforward way to get diversity of perspectives is to get diversity of backgrounds and of people. So that's one kind of diversity that you can get. I think he talked about different sorts of diversity, but that's what stuck out to me, and like that's the mathematical reasoning behind this whole like diversity movement. It's really interesting actually, not to view it from the ethical perspective, like, oh, like, just view it from the purely mathematical perspective because it gives it more weight. And if you look at it purely from the mathematical perspective, like literally companies are losing money because, like, if you look at it from a statistical point of view, if the leadership of the company does not have diverse perspectives, then they are losing money because they will not basically because they will not have all of the most accurate sampling of the world, because the population is biased. And basically diversity, it works both like in terms of external factors, so whether you're a man, woman, different ethnicities, different sexual orientations, of course, and all of these things. Like, if you look at, for example, if you had a company that was only, only Democrats, but very diverse visually, like, this company would still be missing out on the data that the Republican, like having a Republican representation would like the information, the extra information in terms of pure information theory, like basically that gain of information that you get from getting someone who does not share the same perspective, because then you're able to have a much wider, like a much more objective view of the world, because usually the truth lies in the middle. not in the middle in the sense that, oh, you take everything and you half it. So I don't know, not in that sense, but basically in the middle in terms of perspective. There are some things that, for example, this Republican person can be right about, and there are some things that they can be wrong about. And it's the same for democratic people. Like if we just take US politics, like obviously I have no idea about US politics because I mean, I'm not American. I don't live in the US. So it's just the first example that came to mind because it's an easy example to give. But I don't know. I hope that gets my point across. Obviously, I could be more eloquent in explaining these concepts. But anyway, just to get back to this whole diversity point, I really want us, like in this group, to keep focusing on that side rather than just the ethical perspective, like, oh, women, like, which is also valid, right? But I think that just like in a company, in a tech company, where everyone is all about numbers and data points and stuff like this information speaks louder than words, and just exclusively focusing on what like on the parts that all sides agree on, which are the objective mathematical parts, makes a stronger case for gender diversity. And so basically, I think the approach that we're trying to take as part of this Women in Engineering group is we're actually trying to apply engineering principles or an engineering approach to solving gender diversity. And I think that's really fun because it's something that, you know, we're putting to use our skills that we use to build lots of stuff that makes these companies money, but we're using them to, I mean, we're framing it because it is true, to basically be a win-win situation for everyone involved. It helps the company because the company, by having a wider, like more diverse leadership, it's able to make better judgments, better decisions, of which like the impact is hard to measure, but it falls again into that no man's land where just because it's hard to measure doesn't mean that the impact is not there. And sometimes it's usually the impact of the things that are hard to measure that is the highest, especially when it comes to these topics, because they're really, really hard to put into words, as you can clearly see from this video. But yeah, I just got really excited about that, and I love like our whole philosophy of applying the skills that make us good engineers. So basically, like using mathematical tools and objective tools to drive the initiatives that will also support this cause. So yeah, I'm just like super excited about that. I put down a whole plan of how we can bridge this hiring gap, as well as like some other things that I need to update on our doc that we will be reviewing on Monday with two of our directors. But yeah, I think I've made like basically. I mean, I'm not the only one that's working on this. Obviously, I'm just talking about my perspective on the things that I'm specifically working on. But obviously, this is like a group initiative, and like I think if we tried to all do it on our own, we wouldn't be able to have the impact that we are already having and that we will hopefully have, which will be hopefully even greater. But yeah, like just noted down some of the action items that I need. I'll probably work on this tomorrow morning, even though it's a Saturday. But I really want this talk to be really, really good. And I want the point to be really, really clear. And I want for our initiatives to have, like, basically, I want for this talk to be as crisp as any of our like regular project planning docs, because those go through a lot of scrutiny, and I want the same rigor to be applied to these initiatives to show to our leadership how committed we are and how good we are at solving these problems, and that way they can also get on board and support the initiatives. So yeah, it just makes me super happy to work on this and to feel like I have a role to play in this, and that I'm not powerless, and that I can have a positive impact just by thinking really hard about some solution and writing it up in a really good, crisp way that allows, like, that enables us to enlist more allies and support to try to tackle these initiatives. Um, so yeah, sorry for going into the lingo, and like I think I tried to explain it, but I might not make full sense because obviously I've read this book a while back, but I just tried to use like some base mathematical principles to like that I remember that he talked about, and that I had made the link in my head of how it works. But yeah, enough rambling from my side. But you can tell that I'm probably like that I'm really excited about this, and that I think this is a great opportunity for us to have some really, really positive impact. And these are the kinds of things that I live for. It just brings me so much joy to be able to do these kinds of things and to do it in a really, really thoughtful way. I think that's probably one of my my strengths is I'm really, really trying to be thoughtful and not to jump to conclusions, but really think things through and uh, give myself the mental space to really try to solve the problem in the right way and not jump to the first solution that comes to mind. And it's just super fun exercise. And it's the kind of rigor that I'm committed to, like, just sticking to, because it's something that, like, with this kind of rigor, it takes a long time and it takes lots of mental effort to be able to come up with these solutions. But if I'm patient enough, the solution usually comes like if I'm patient with myself to just let myself think and not try to jump to conclusion or like be too biased towards action. I think I'm usually able to come up with a better, more systemized way to solve the problem, and it's a more of a long-term solution than just basically taking action for the sake of taking action. I would rather be a bit more deliberate and slow in my thinking to really figure out what's the right solution, like for the problem when it feels just right, then just jump in and try to do things for the sake of doing them. It's hard work. Like it's a fun mental exercise that I really enjoy. I think that's the commonality between all of the stuff that I enjoy doing. It's usually a hard problem that takes a while to figure out, but once it's figured out, I can leverage it. And basically, it's like a permanent fix. It's not a hot fix that that only works for so far, and that you will need to keep on updating over and over again. Yeah, I know this video was a bit all over the place, so thank you for sticking with me up until now. Yeah, just really thank you for tuning in. I hope this is somewhat helpful. I hope I didn't confuse you too much with my ramblings, but yeah, like that's the whole point of making these videos, is to force me to figure out what's the right way to say things. So that means that here I will say them in the most raw, not well structured way, but that's a forcing function that will allow me to, in other, I was just saying, it's a forcing function that will allow me to, in other settings, or sometime in the future on this video, to have a more finalized version of, like a more crisp and more crisp and condensed version of these thoughts. So yeah, it's back to this thing, it's just back to doing iterations over iterations of iterations, and being okay with not formulating things in the best way, because now that I've thought about it, maybe next time I will talk about it. It will be a bit more crisp, and it just will be a positive flywheel of improvement, and hopefully at some point you will see the finished result or the version, I don't know, version plus 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 of whatever thoughts that I'm sharing. So yeah, really thank you for sticking with me. If you have stayed up until now, listening to me just talking. Thanks a lot for tuning in. You can click here to watch my previous video on this channel, so the one right before this one, or you can click here to watch my latest video on the channel overall. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day, night, whichever time of day it is, where you are right now. Bye for now, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye bye!